Northcentral Nfused. It is November, and October was a pretty tough year, wasn't it? Year? Yeah.
Seemed like it.
Cooperative month, our annual meeting, breast cancer awareness. What else do we do? Public Power Week.
Annual meeting.
And, well, I said annual meeting. Cybersecurity month. There's a lot happening. So we've recovered. We are a little bit late in November, but we've been traveling. We've had meetings. We've been a little busy. So here we are for November's edition of the podcast. And as usual, we have our CEO and General Manager, Kevin Doddridge.
Hello.
Our Director of Marketing and Business Development, Michael Bellapani.
Hey.
And our Director of Safety and Loss Control, JD Cox.
Good to be here.
Okay, so we'll just jump right in.
All right.
We have some good news, right?
Yeah, we do have some good news.
Okay.
We always have some good news. One of the best news events that we have is a press release that we received the other day. Local Doug Davis, now the Chief of Staff for Senator Cindy Hyde Smith, sent us a press release where Senator Smith is signing on to the Rural Act. The Rural Act is a very important piece of legislation that they're working on in Washington right now. The intent is to correct an error that was made in the Trump administration tax bill that was passed several years ago. And in that tax bill, it was determined that there are certain grants that are made available to not-for-profits that could turn that not-for-profit into a for-profit. And that is something that a rural electric co-op, if we were to lose our not-for-profit status in the middle of a fiscal year, we would be very ill prepared for a tax burden at the end of the year. And a scenario that could affect this, Northcentral might not come into play as much, but I've always liked to pick on my friends on the Gulf Coast. And let's say you got Coast Electric Power. They apply for a broadband grant. They get multi-million dollars in a broadband grant. Somewhere around June, they get hit by a hurricane. And as often happened on the Gulf Coast, another hurricane may come through in September or October. So they're getting FEMA grants coming in. They've got a broadband grant coming in. That revenue exceeds 15% of their operating revenue. The operating revenue's probably been in decline since they've had these storms. And the next thing you know, they're toward the end of their fiscal year, and they've turned themselves into a taxable entity, and they'll have a pretty good tax bill. This is just one of those unintended consequences. No one intended for this to happen. There's been reluctance to reopen the tax bill to try to correct it, so they're taking a different avenue, which is trying to define what grants this should apply to. A lot of senators have signed on it. Like I just said, Senator Cindy Hyde just did. A lot of support in Washington. All we need to get them to do is vote on it. And if you follow the news, there's a lot of other things going on in D.C. right now that is distracting. So we hope that maybe just by signing on to the bill in the House, there's a procedure where if a certain number sign on, they can just pass it without a vote to the Senate. The Senate would have to actually vote. We don't know where that stands now, but we do hope it comes up for a vote. We do have a cooperative in northern New York, Otsego Electric Cooperative, that due to a large number of broadband grants they were able to get, lost their tax exempt status. So it can happen. Also, you mentioned we had our annual meeting, and that's when we discuss the business of the year, discuss what we're going to do this upcoming year, and elect directors. We had Julie Niblett, Jerry Nichols, and Phil Lashashay. They were incumbents, and they were reelected by the membership, and we congratulate them and look forward to working with them for another 3 years. We will send notices out once again, middle of the summer, and let people know when the annual meeting is going to take place and what the process is if you want to run for our board. I try to make sure that that's transparent and people know exactly what's going on. Also, something that we did at our annual meeting is that we voted to amend our Articles of Incorporation. And that may seem like a very mundane, boring topic, and to be truthfully, it is. But what we did was we asked our membership to allow us to change our name to Northcentral Electric Cooperative if we so chose. We had some other little wordings that we needed to change, spelling mistakes. We needed to correct the fact that we're no longer located in Senatobia, but also asked the membership to allow us to take advantage of everything that's in the Rural Broadband Act, which the short term there is it gives us the opportunity to form a high-speed internet affiliate if we so choose. And this is just something necessary. Our Articles of Incorporation had to be amended to do that. So the membership allowed us to do that. So we are now technically in a position to move forward. We had a very good special board meeting this morning to where the Northcentral staff made a presentation to the board and a consultant made a presentation to the board, and we have hired Vantage Point consultants to assist us in designing the remainder of our system and get fiber out there. So when people are kind of curious where we stand, we've often talked about it. It's this long process. It's kind of a slow process, but it's deliberate. We have brought on a very experienced consulting firm, engineering firm. They've start about 5 to 6 projects a year, got about 30 or 40 going, great resources, very flexible in how they'll work with us with the architect of the fiber system. Keywords, flexible, and it's complicated. You got to be flexible to work with us on this, and it's complicated because you're still trying to manage light, which is real difficult to do. So we'll start working with them in the very near future, and we will have a phased approach to building out our fiber, and we'll learn more about that over the next several months.
Is it safe to say it's coming?
Yes.
Okay. There was a lot of words in there. We're just trying to find a headline version of it.
I'll tell you, I can walk a fence.
Yeah, no, I understand.
If there's a fence of gray area, I can navigate it well.
And if you, we did a special version of our podcast back in July, I believe, where we kind of answered some questions on that. So if you have any questions on the broadband and what we'll be offering in the months or years to come, you can refer to that. And if you have any other questions, you can always email us. It's podcast@northcentralepa.com.
Please do, because this is something that we're starting to move into that area to where we need to know what our members think about this, who want this service, and it'll help us in our design of the system as far as where we go. Some things that might have caught us a little bit by surprise. We had not in this area as much, but about a week and a half ago, we had a pretty substantial storm that came up. This tropical storm Olga formed very quickly in the Gulf. And that's kind of when I give my situational story in the Rural Act about Coast Electric Power. Some of these storms can pop up very quickly, very late in the season. Olga trekked through Mississippi, almost like the Natchez Trace, the way it came up in a weird angle. And very fortunate that it stayed to the east of us. But it really was a perfect storm in that it came together with the front pushing through. A tremendous amount of damage. And we actually had no damage in our service area, but we had crews for at least 8-9 days, I believe, working everything from Newton, Mississippi up to Corinth, those that sustained all that damage. And like I say, some of these cooperatives might be small, but we've got a large network of people behind us that help when things like that come through. Another little storm that I was particularly proud of, the way our distribution system handled, with being a lot of resiliency there, was the wind started picking up as the front came through, I believe, on Sunday. And we had sustained winds of about 15 to 20 miles an hour. And that may not seem like much, but when they're sustained, that can do a lot of damage. I have sweated some of the money that we spent this last summer on right-of-way clearance. But our staff has made a great case on the need to maintain our system, maintain the clearance of the lines, and that really demonstrated itself when we started picking up those winds that hung around for in excess of 24 hours. And I'm not picking on any of my friends up in Shelby County or in the Entergy area or east of us, but when those systems were reporting large, widespread outages, and I checked with our system operator on how we were withstanding things. And, you saw where there were a couple thousand out here and a couple thousand out here. And I said, what do we got? And he said, 8. And 2 of those were planned. That maintenance pays off. And that is, if you have an extreme storm, sometimes your clearing, it's still going to fail you a little bit if the storm is extreme enough. But when we had that persistent wind, that is one of those things that can keep our men jumping for days almost if we don't have our maintenance and our tree trimming in line. And we put forth a great effort to get everything in line. And we had some members that were a little disgruntled when we cut their favorite tree or didn't get the debris cleaned up quick enough. But it pays off. It really does. And I think it showed itself in not showing itself over the last several days.
Okay. So anything else you have to add?
I have probably said enough today.
Check out chapter 2.
I have probably said more than y'all wanted to hear. So
no,
yeah,
this is important information, of course.
I won't
keeping
get
the
into that. I
lights on.
swear I thought those turkeys could fly, but
It's that time of year.
yeah.
Well, speaking of that time of year, JD, you've got some safety ideas and thoughts to.
I had a segue.
Yeah, that was. We're after a year and a half of doing this podcast, we're starting to learn how to
Pulled one
run a
in.
podcast. JD, you have safety wise for us.
All
this
right,
morning.
teed it right up for me. We have been busy. The latter part of October, we had an event over at the Lander Center in South Haven, Pathways to Possibilities. Normally, this event only includes 8th graders, but this year it was opened up to seniors as well who were participating at the Career Tech Centers, and it was a great group. We had a great group of employees go up and set up some demonstrations and things that the students could come through with and use their hands and put their hands on it and work with it and really get the experience of some of the things that our employees here do each and every day. And I have to say, those 8th graders just ate it up. I mean, they were really enjoying themselves. And I can tell you, you can just, when you do these things long enough, there's a couple of young folks that come through there and you can just see in their eyes something just clicks, and they've never really been exposed to anything like that before. And then there's always a couple who have really been thinking about it. And they get there and they see that we're there and we have some things that they've been interested in, and they get to ask some questions and put their hands on things. And I'll tell you, some of these young folks can really impress you with the questions that they have. So it was
When they
always
learn
great.
that it's not just poles and wire anymore. There's information technology, there's engineering, there's marketing, communications, accounting. When they start picking up on that, media, you've got all that. And when they start picking up on that, they realize that there's a lot more going on here than just, poles and wire, which is in the foundation of our business. But there's so many other things going on.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we really emphasize on, and whether it be career tech days at the high schools, things of that nature, is that when they drive by and they see the bucket trucks in the air when the weather's bad, they see our guys roll out. But we really try to impress upon them and open their eyes to it takes a lot of talented people working together with a common cause to supply electricity to a community with as many members as we do. And you start talking about the customer service and all the IT skills, communication skills, and all the other things that they don't see when they drive by the bucket trucks. And you really get some great questions. But it's a great event.
Absolutely.
We really do appreciate being a part of that. Look forward to doing it again next year. And we'll try to see if we can come up with some new events and impress the kids even more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and TV PPA kind of stood us up a little bit. They had the static electricity generator that makes your hair stand up. So as soon as they were done with us, they were just right next door on mats.
But really, with that event, the name says it all in Pathways to Possibilities, because it's not the pathway that we had growing up. We'd have college or career fairs, and the college recruiter would come talk to you, and that was your pathways. You're going to go to college. Your parents said you were going to go to college. But there's a number of possibilities out there right now, and all these different roles that are played within organizations don't necessarily require a 4-year degree or a 2-year associate's degree. A little bit of career and technical training, they can get right out of school and earn a 2-car and a boat salary, and really get to work.
Well, I'm a prime example of that, Michael. I absolutely have every bit of appreciation for someone who wants to go to school and get that 2-year or 4-year degree. But that wasn't, at the time I was coming up, that just wasn't an opportunity that was afforded to me. So I chose to go into an apprenticeship program, and I was blessed enough for a utility company to invest in me. And I took that path, and it's been a blessing for me, and I'm able to raise a family, provide for them. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics done a study back in the 70s, and they done one here just a few years ago, and basically identical results. 80% of the jobs that are available in the United States today do not require a college education. So what we have to do, and what we are tasked and challenged with, is giving opportunity for kids in high school to see what the possibilities are, and really educating them as to positive directions that they can go and pursue in order to, earn a living for them and their families. And Pathways to Possibility, it's properly named, and I think it's doing a great job. And just appreciate being there, appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Justin worked with the students at DeSoto Career Tech West, the media students, to produce a promotional video, and it's out there. It'll be released.
I've already submitted it to the DeSoto County Economic Development Council. There seems to be, they haven't complained about it, so but this is a little 3-minute video on what they do and all the stuff that they have to offer, and it's crazy because there's it's more than just power is one of those pathways, but there's law enforcement and finance and hospitality and tourism and health services. But they had like 2 or 3 of the vendors had like virtual reality machines hooked up, and it's like, and so it's really kind of cool hands-on stuff instead of just getting a lecture on how great college is. And this is a career that you can start and not have student loan debt.
Absolutely.
And that's big.
That's right. Stay tuned to our social media channels, because I'm sure that video will surface at some point.
Absolutely. So continuing on to safety.
Yes, just heading into the holidays, a couple things definitely feel a responsibility to talk about. It's starting to get cold, obviously. If you don't like the weather in this part of the country, just stick around for a few days, it'll change. Just a couple of weeks ago, seemed like we were in 90-degree weather, and now
we had 3 days of fall.
Yeah. So now the low last night was breaking records, about 17, 18 degrees, as I understand. And this time of year, when the temperature dips like that, people break out the space heaters, and just really want to talk about those space heaters. If you're going to use a space heater, please be careful that you don't overload the circuit. And what I mean is, most houses and bedrooms and things of that nature where people are using these are wired 110 volts, generally about a 15 amp breaker for those receptacles. Please don't plug in a space heater that is too large for that circuit, or plug in multiple smaller space heaters. That is how fires get started a lot of the time. And unfortunately, many times when these issues happen, it's with elderly people and very, very young people. So please, if you're going to use a space heater, let's make sure that we're not overloading the electrical outlets in the house.
It's really recommended they don't plug them into those strips either, is it?
Yeah, I saw something. I was actually about to ask that today. I saw a photo of one melted because of a space heater. That's what it said.
That's what happens most of the time. They'll, especially in the older houses where they were never really intended to carry that kind of load, they'll plug in one of those strips that has 5 or 6 outlets. They'll plug multiple appliances or devices in it. And then, when that overload happens, it generates heat. And when it starts to generate heat like that, that's when things catch on fire and problems start. And really, if you're going to use one also, they recommend that you keep it 36 inches away from anything that's flammable. Again, use them around small children is not a good idea, because they generally get tumped over. Kids could be playing, knock it over, things of that nature. So please, if you're going to use a space heater, we realize that there are situations out there where our members, are going to have to use them, but just please take proper precautions and make sure that you're using them in a space big enough for it and don't overload the electrical circuit. Also, we're switching to, whether it be ventless gas logs, things of that nature. Watch your carbon monoxide poisoning. Make sure that all your gas appliances are working properly and that they're vented properly. And something that people talk about all the time, be sure you change your batteries out in your fire detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. Do that at the same time every year to make sure they're in good working order. And then really moving into the holidays, it just seems like, Thanksgiving and Christmas is just a couple of days apart now. A lot of people are already decorating for Christmas. Make sure, if you do have a real tree in the house, instead of fake trees with all the lights already on them, like I use.
Artificial.
Yeah. I have to do a real tree. That's what the wife wants, so I got to pay attention.
Just make sure that you keep plenty of water in it so it doesn't dry out. Make sure that you don't use lights that are intended for use indoors. Make sure you don't use those for outdoors. Those can certainly cause problems, because that's not what their intended use was. This time of year, people have candles and stuff they're firing up all around the house, around young children. Still, keep an eye on them. And one of the things that always comes up around Thanksgiving is the turkey fryers. please be careful with those things. Whatever you do, if something happens, do not get water anywhere near one of those turkey fires. It's very
Thaw it.
thaw it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yes, and you just don't drop one of those in.
Turkey launcher.
There are plenty of videos out there that will show you the proper way to do that if you're going to do it, how to set it up, make sure that it's not going to tip over, things of that nature. Obviously, a deep fried turkey is delicious, but just be careful in preparing it. And with that, that's all I have.
Okay. And so, going further into the holiday season, I guess we're going to talk about community events.
Yeah, and there's a lot of events going on, particularly the Christmas parades. Yeah.
And we are bringing Santa.
Yes, we're getting the float cleaned up and ready to go, so we can bring Santa through the streets of Old Town Olive Branch.
Love it, love it, love it.
That's actually, first we've got to light the town tree. That City Hall on December 5th at 7 o'clock, that'll be the city's Christmas tree lighting and open house at the Wesson House. And the next night, Longview Heights Baptist Church will present their drive-through nativity. This year's Bethlehem and Beyond. That'll be from 6:30 to 8:30 on the evenings of December 6th through 8th, and that's a wonderful event. But the Olive Branch Christmas Parade will be on December 7th at 2 o'clock. It's your traditional route. This is the 43rd annual Christmas parade, and if y'all need any information on that, the routes, how to enter a float or a group, visit olivebranchms.com. South Haven's parade will be on December 9th at 6:30. That's an evening parade. It's their 39th annual. And for more information on that, visit southhavenchamber.com.
Well, we're not bringing Santa to that one.
No, I think the police department in South Haven does their Santa.
That's terrible.
Well, they've been doing it for 39 years, so I didn't want to ask them to break tradition.
Free Santa.
Free Santa. South Haven, we're here if you need us. Just keep that in mind. Bahia is doing something a little bit different this year. Mm-hmm. On the 21st, they're going to have what they're going to call Winter Wonderland on the grounds of Bahia High School from 5 to 8:30. I think they've got an ice skating rink they're going to build in Bahia, Mississippi. They're going to have local food vendors, and Santa will be there. So make it a point to go out there and celebrate with the town of Byhalia. I skipped over a couple. Olive Branch Police Department is doing their annual Shop with a Cop, and we will be there for that. Bringing Santa in for that. And that's going to be on December 16th at Walmart. And that's a really neat event where members of the Olive Branch Police Department take a young person and go Christmas shopping with them. And it's just a really special event. We're hosting our winter blood drive, Lifeblood. Well, it's called Vitalent now,
yes.
formerly Lifeblood. It'll be in our auditorium on December 19th from 11 to 3. You can visit Vitalent's website to register, and
You can fill out a pre-questionnaire and kind of get that process.
Yeah, it speeds it up.
Yeah, it speeds it up a little bit. But you give us a pint of blood, we'll give you a cookie.
yeah, that's right.
Not a bad deal.
Nutter butters.
You cap that at 1 pint?
That's all you can give away
Okay.
at one point, because you might start getting woozy after.
Yeah, you need 2 cookies.
Eat another cookie.
Yeah, I think it's a cookie and a T-shirt and a Coke. So,
But there's nothing better though than giving the gift of life, and that's donating blood. So,
I saw on their website 1 pint of your blood can save up to 3 lives in the hospital, up to, which is pretty big. So think about it if you've ever or know somebody that's been in an accident that required a blood transfusion. It's because people like Vitalent that help get that blood to people that need it in the hospitals.
That's right. So make sure to come out for that if you can. And just a few other events during the holidays from December 1st through 30th, South Haven, City of South Haven. I know my family always likes to go look at Christmas lights. Mm-hmm. So they're doing their annual Southern Lights through Central Park on Chulahoma Road in South Haven. I think that the admission to the park, all that money raised goes to local charities. So I think they charge by the car. So y'all can visit that December 1st through 30th. And then DeSoto Family Theater is going to present A Christmas Story, which is my favorite movie. So I'm going to go see the play. That'll be December 13th through 22nd at the DeSoto Family Theater at the Lander Center. For tickets on that, visit dftonline.org. And just to let y'all know, we are going to have a couple of closings. So the office during the holidays will be closed the day after Thanksgiving, so that we can enjoy time with our families.
And do that Black Friday shopping.
No, not here.
I'm not doing it.
All Amazon this year.
Exactly.
And local business, of course, too.
Famous last words.
But we will close, but we'll have folks on hand if should we need to restore outages, and we've got our 24/7 call center. So you can still reach us at 800-325-8925.
Yep.
And also just looking ahead, to plan ahead, we will close at 3 p.m. on December 23rd for the Christmas holiday and return back at 8 a.m. on the 26th.
Okay. And there's one more, because it is in our service area, and I got to meet this family a few years ago. There's this Christmas lights display on Alexander Road.
Oh, Bella's Lights.
Yes. Bella's Lights. So it's a computerized light show. It's going to take place the day after Thanksgiving, so 5:30. The day after Thanksgiving, they're going to they keep this light display open for like 5 hours until 10:30, and they give you cupcakes and cookies and all kinds of stuff. And all. I mean, if you want to help out this family, Bella and her friend Laylee are trying to fight osteogenesis imperfecta 4, also known as brittle bone syndrome. And if you go out there, I think sometimes the celebrities will greet you. So Bella and her friends will sometimes come out there and say hey. So and that's a pretty cool little setup.
That's
so
a great
yeah.
display.
So that's an Olive Branch on Alexander Road starting on Black Friday, I believe. So but yeah, and be sure to download our app if you haven't. It's available on your smartphone on Google Play and the iTunes Store. And I'm trying to think. Anything
Make
else?
sure one thing we don't pitch enough, and I wish we did, is make sure that if you're a subscriber to the podcast, make sure you give us a rating. We need to start evaluating ourselves, and if there's any input you have or ideas or suggestions, please email us at podcast@northcentralepa.com.
We love to promote charity events, local artists, some local businesses. So anything that if you guys want to even be featured, maybe we can arrange that for you in the future as well. So that's podcast@northcentralepa.com. Anything else we need to promote? Okay.
All through the calendar.
All right. So that is it. We will see you guys in December. Thanks.
Pay your bill 24 hours a day and monitor your electrical usage with the North Central app, available for Apple and Android devices. Download now for free on iTunes and Google Play.